can you hit the intro? Let's get going.
Awesome. Shall we go, Mac?
We are live. Let's just have a look over here. Yeah. We are live.
Good morning, everybody. Well, this is our first LinkedIn Live. Ben and I have been threatening to do this from the days of Clubhouse. Do you remember, Louise? Where we used to do a session every Friday between 1 and 2 p.m. and we had people from around the world come and join us on these cyber sessions. The only snag is that, most of our clients and people that we want to help, of course, run businesses, and a lot of them are currently in LinkedIn. And we've, over the years, have met so many amazing people, especially in cybersecurity, that want to help other people. And that was the whole reason for us starting the whole LinkedIn Live thing. And I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody that's here today, but especially to Mac, because Mac knows that when it comes to cyber, ask me anything. When it comes to arranging things like LinkedIn Live, don't ask me anything. So Mac, just a massive, massive thank you. So to run you through a quick agenda, we're gonna do some introductions in a second. You'll hear some amazing people here today. We're gonna then discuss the topic of the month, and we already had quite an interesting debate before we even started this morning. And then we're going to work through some case studies. And then Ben, who heads up our security team at Security Everywhere, is going to share stats that came off hot off the press only this morning, which will probably answer some of the questions as to why so many people are getting hacked. We will answer any questions that comes up in the comments. And then, of course, for everybody that stays to the end, we will share many, many tips and tricks on how to improve not only your own cybersecurity, but your parents, your kids, your people at work. So the only thing we ask is for you to share what you learn with 10 other people, and for those 10 people to share with another 10 people. And this is how we're gonna help as many people as possible. So, Mac, as you were the one who helped us so much with this event, please introduce, because you've been flying our flag for a long time now. You're a close friend, and you take the stuff seriously.
Dear. Yes, unfortunately, I have to take it seriously, Francis. Having been, they say, once bitten, twice shy. Unfortunately, I've been bitten more than once, because these guys are getting so bloody clever these days. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm known as the LinkedIn expert only because of my clients. So I finally gave in to the title. But I've spent since 2007 on LinkedIn, but also on many other platforms, and run my own businesses in security and various other areas. But as an individual, I have personally seen so many attempts through my email, which is the easiest door, which I'm sure we'll cover today, as well as here on LinkedIn, seeing so many false accounts being set up and people reaching out on that as well. So, if you don't have a solution like Security Everywhere or something similar in place, hopefully today is going to turn on some light bulbs, because if Google can get attacked, then none of us are safe. So that is me for now. Francis, back to you.
Thank you, Mac, and thank you again. Louise, over to you.
Hi, everybody. There might be a lag on my system, so hopefully you can hear me. My name is Louise Richardson, and I run a charity for children and young people. And we primarily look at health, safety and risk. So one of the sets, or one of the items that we deliver, is around cyber resilience, cybersecurity. And I am constantly astounded of how the gap between what we think people know and what they know is just massive. And that assumption that people are safe online, or young people are safe online, and they're not. So our goal is to make sure that we can make as many young people safe, and anybody safe online. And that's why I am beyond delighted to be here. As you know, I'm quite excitable. And I'm so glad to see you all, because I've missed you, and how dare you leave it so long. So I'm delighted to be here.
Well, welcome back, Louise. The stuff you do for children is just truly amazing. So that's why we support your charity, AppSafe, for so many years now, and cannot recommend anybody who's doing any fundraising, do it for AppSafe, because she keeps, a team and her keeps so many children safe online. Paul, our magician in the room.
Morning, sir. How are you? Right, I'm Paul Newton, the company's mental theft. I am a magician and a mind reader by trade, but I use my mind reading skills to steal passwords and PIN numbers and usernames and your mother's maiden name, you know, all unimportant things like that. These days, I break into companies, I break into buildings, I attack personal security, and I do so because if I warn you I'm going to do it and then I still get away with it, what are the scammers getting away with when they're staying in the dark? That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to educate people by scaring the life out of them. And it seems to be working.
Well, I tell you, and also if you want to see a top speaker, then you need to get Paul Newton on your stage, because the stuff that he'll show you is frightening and so entertaining at the same time. Thank you, Paul. Paul Lopez, thank you so much for joining us. Paul heads up the Eastern Cyber Resilience Center, and I've had the privilege of serving with him on advisory capacity for some time now. And over to you, Paul. And I want to, before you start, I just want to tell everybody that's on the session today, did you know that if you go to the Eastern Cyber Resilience Center website, you can subscribe as a member right now for free and have a look at all the things they offer? Simply brilliant. So, Paul, over to you.
Thank you, Francis. So my name is Paul Lopez. I'm probably the odd person out here because I'm the only cop on the call. So I'm a detective superintendent from Essex Police, and I'm seconded into the Eastern Cyber Resilience Centre as the managing director. So a bit unusual for policing, but it's a limited company. We're a police company. We're funded by policing and also by the Home Office. And basically we're set up in the face of the rising sort of tide of crime against businesses, particularly nationally. So we're part of a national network, but it's about raising awareness of what the current threats are, what vulnerabilities businesses may face, and the vast majority of what we do, as you said, Francis, free of charge. We signpost to tools and services that are available through the National Cybersecurity Centre. If you've ever been to the National Cybersecurity Centre website, it's pretty hard to navigate. We'll do all the hard work for you and help you find what you need. And we also work with academia as well. We work with all the universities in our region, and we train up some of their students to provide services on behalf of our members as well. So yeah, that's what we do, Francis.
Brilliant, Paul. How do we, Mac? How do we post links in the chat, or can we do that? Just if we're referring to websites and places for people to go to, can we put it under comments, or where's the best place?
Yes, we can put it directly on the comments on the LinkedIn Live. So if you're on LinkedIn, just make sure you have your screen on mute. Otherwise, you'll have some interesting feedback coming through the stream as well. So
all right, brilliant. So I'll just put it on the private chat if Joel can share them out. Is that okay?
Yeah, we can do that.
Brilliant. Over to you, Theo. I'm not allowed to call him our SS man anymore, apparently.
But there you go and do it anyway. So good morning, everyone. Welcome on LinkedIn Live. It's a great privilege to be here. So thank you very much for the invitation. I'm a small technology service provider, started in the UK in 2021, coming over from South Africa, and really looking to help customers with their digital adoption, technology adoption, digital transformation strategies. So we look at offering information technology solutions, telecommunications, and all of that is very securely wrapped up in the cybersecurity solutions and products that we bring to the market. So I've done quite a bit of work with Francis and his team. Unfortunately, they call me in too late when people have already been hacked. So my aim is to try and do education and get people to do prevention as opposed to cure. Thank you.
Thank you, Theo. Rob, now this is the only man I know that ejected from a Harrier in flight. So,
hello, comms check. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, Francis. We only met a couple of days ago, so I'm very, very grateful for this invitation. Firstly, though, this is the first presentation I've ever been on where we've got a thief and a policeman on the screen next to each other. It's brilliant.
We don't discriminate.
My name's Rob Shand. I run a company with a couple of partners called Impact Resilience. We help companies to I'm very much on the same mantra as everyone else actually is around preparation for severe disruption, not just cyber, although obviously that's a common one in traditional business continuity sense. But we're really focused on the preparation for what do you do when things do go wrong, when that severe event happens, whether it's a cyber attack or anything else. And that for us is all about crisis leadership and teamwork in a crisis. So we very much focus on the human response to disruption and helping people at the top of companies who are responsible for it answer the question, how do you know you're ready? And so we go in and exercise plans and set up scenarios and simulations within companies to exercise the team's response.
Thank you, Rob, and welcome. And I hope we see you here many times in the future. Ben, he's my right-hand man, my wingman. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone, and it is nice to be back after the absence from Clubhouse. But obviously, with Clubhouse being a restrictive app, it's great to be able to hopefully reach a broader audience. And all being well, we'll build up the same kind of crowd and regular attendees as we did with Clubhouse. So, as Francis mentioned, I'm his right-hand man at Security Everywhere. So he talks the talk, and I have to walk the walk with the customers to make sure that the systems are deployed and in place to keep them all safe. I've got some stats and some stuff to go through, but for now, Francis, if you'd like to pass over to William.
No, definitely, William. I think William is our youngest member here. He's also a client, and he's a brilliant speaker as well on the subject. So I'm delighted to have you here today, William. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Francis. I apologize about my internet connection, which seems to be bouncing all the time. I'm William from Lockdown Cybersecurity. I look younger than I am, and definitely than I feel. I think it's fair to say. Our slant is really looking at the business side of cybersecurity and educating the C-suite, educating the board, educating accountants and finance directors who ultimately look after risk and sign off budgets for spend, but often are removed from the equation when it comes to cybersecurity, can't add to the conversation, can't scrutinize the strategy. So we try and educate board members, and that's our primary focus.
Thank you very much. I know I haven't missed anybody apart from myself. So yeah, I'm the CEO of Security Everywhere and also Westech Solutions. And with my business partner, Graham Eisen, and myself and our team in the UK and abroad, we help small businesses protect themselves from cybercrime. That's simple, because we feel that it's really unfair that the likes of Barclays and NASDAQ and Netflix can have enterprise level security services and the small business can't, and we fix that problem for them. And as you probably can see behind me, we made it our mission to educate and protect at least 1 million people from hackers and scammers by 2023. We've gone past that, so we've now decided to turn that into businesses instead of just people by 2026. So for you to be here today helps us with our mission, and again, I'm very grateful for that. So our theme today, if you signed up to LinkedIn, you would have seen us say, are the hackers winning, and are they a threat to our business? Now, that brought us on the topic today of Facebook. Now, so many companies are running their businesses from Facebook, and last year we had an incident. This poor woman, they got into a Facebook account. They, of course, used all her pay-per-click budget. I mean, there was thousands, because she spent thousands every month. And then for good measure, oops, I don't know what happened there. They left the ISIS flag as a goodbye present. And of course, within seconds, Facebook took her page down. Now, it's been months, 6-7 months. Guess what? Her page is still not back up. She had to start again from scratch. So I want to just open that to the floor, because I know around the table here we've got so many other different stories, and today's message is about, for anybody that uses any social media, especially Facebook, to run their businesses, now you need to listen. So, Paul, can we start with you, Paul Lopez?
Thank you, Francis. Yes, we were discussing this before the call, and this goes back, Francis, to last week when we were at an event in Hertfordshire, and we came across a young woman who was running a business in Hearts and had a Facebook account hacked, and didn't really know what to do next. Interesting, she hadn't reported it to the police. She has done now, and we put her in touch with a local police protect officer to try and help her to recover the data that she might have lost. But I think it's interesting to note that through the National Cybersecurity Centre and some of the national reporting and threat analysis mechanisms that we have in policing, that Facebook business hack attacks, if you want to call them that, are on the rise again. We all knew about them from last year, about individuals losing their accounts. I think probably one of the reasons why the business are suffering so much at the moment is because they have to have open profiles. You can't close things down. You can't have private walls. Everything has to be open because you want people to come and see you. I met with a business owner on Monday, actually, from Essex, who owned a pub in Essex, and he built his business up over a number of years. It was kind of a gastro pub, and they had 3,000 followers, and they did all their marketing, all the Facebook ads, everything was done, through the platform, and they also did a lot of their bookings through it as well. So it was used for all aspects of the business. So information out and bookings in, really successful. And about 2 or 3 weeks ago, his account was taken over. He's not entirely sure. I think you'll talk a bit later, Francis, about how perhaps people can actually get into your accounts and the things that you should have set up in place. He did have multi-factor authentication on his account, but the main email address, which is a Gmail address, he didn't check it very often. And he's gone back to it now, and there were some warning signals coming through the emails which he wasn't checking. So that was an issue. But I guess there's 2 things really that I want to bring out from, because there's more than just 2 in the region. There's hundreds and hundreds, I'm sure. Many times not reported to police, so we're not even aware of it. And the first thing is that most of these businesses, they're quite small. They're micros, 1 or 2 employees, and it's all run from phones and tablets. And they don't back up their data, so they don't have their customer data stored safely, securely offline. So when their business goes down, when they lose their Facebook account, that's it. They've lost everything. And this is the next bit is quite chilling, but I'd be encouraged to share this with you all, and I think rightly so. Speaking to the cyber protect officers in our region, the 7 counties that we operate in, I've yet to speak to one who's been able to tell me about anybody, either a personal account or a business account, where the account's been hacked and taken over in this way, has been able to recover their account. So the message is, unfortunately, that if you lose your account, you've lost it for good, which means, we'll talk a bit more about the backup later, Francis, I'm sure, but, you need to protect your account clearly, but you need to have a mechanism in place that if you are, unfortunately, a victim of one of these kind of hacks, you're able to recover your data, recover your account, set up a new account and get your customer database reloaded onto it. And I think the other thing as well, which is I didn't mention before, is that this pub in Essex has got 3,000 followers who are now getting information from this hack site. So there are now 3,000 potential additional victims of this one hack who could potentially fall victim to the same sort of thing. And the business owner has got no way of contacting them to warn them because he hasn't got the details stored anywhere but within the Facebook account. So yeah, it's a bit of a bad news story, but there are things I'm sure we'll tell people later on that they can do to help protect themselves and things they can do to make sure they can get business back up and running again as well.
Well, I think it needs to be bad news story sometimes because people need to understand what the risks are when they use these online media to run their businesses. Anybody, please feel free to jump in at any time. But if you don't, I'm going to pass over to Louise, please, because again, you deal with kids all day long. And then, okay, put your hand up. Paul Newton, I'll go with you next. I think that's good. If you put your hand up, and I know who to speak to, ask next. Louise?
Yeah, I think there's an assumption that people know easy stuff. So I think we were talking before about you having a conversation with an organization and they were saying, let's do this. And you're saying, let's go back to basics. And I think it's really good that Paul shares this because we often say, well, people know. Well, people don't know. And even if they do know, we need to remind them and we need to say it in different ways. the young people that we have spent time with and the older people, and I was explaining that, I had to explain to an older person that when she was on Facebook, it's actually online, because there's this disassociation between behavior and online. So they think online is separate to behavior. So we've spoken before, haven't we? Do the simple things. So if you're going to go in your house, you lock your front door, you make sure your windows are shut. If you've got an alarm, you set it, all those kind of things. And we need to make sure that people understand when you're online, you need to do the simple things first. And I think even when we talk to young people, we say, we use the term that you used, Francis, actually, low hanging fruit. You need to do more than the person that's next to you, and make it more complex. And even the young people we've spoken to, I would say probably 1% have passwords that are adequate. 1%. So I explained to them that through their accounts, they can get to their parents' accounts, and through their parents' accounts, then they can get to their parents' accounts. And they need to know it's a knock-on effect, like Paul was describing. And I think we don't do that young enough, and we don't do it consistently enough, and we don't do it in a way that makes sense to people because they're frightened of techie stuff. But this is not techie stuff. This is real life behavior. And I think once we kind of talk about this more in a way that people understand, the more that we can make an influence, and the more that we can make Paul's job maybe a bit easier by saying, well, let's do these, go home, lock your door, lock your computer, go home, put something over your camera on your computer, do these simple things, because then the complex things will less likely happen. So I think that's the message we give to young people. And we definitely need more investment in that. And particularly with stuff that's happening online, that's not great for young people anyway. So yeah, I think it's just do the simple things first and understand your online behavior is a behavior.
So it's interesting on that point that you just made, Louise, because Ben and I was asked to do one of these career mornings at a school here in Hertfordshire. We were there for 2 hours. And I have to tell you, that's the first one I've ever done, but I was shocked at the low level of understanding of not only the kids around cyber, but also the teachers. The teachers came up to us and started asking us the most basic question. I'm like, why is this stuff not being taught at schools? I don't understand.
Sorry to get back to the point. It's really interesting because when we do our cyber, it's 23 minutes long, the cyber set, and the teachers come and listen. And they'll go, oh, I learned that today. And you're right. There's this assumption because it's about that we know, and actually we don't. And I think Paul can talk about that, but also the other Paul can talk about that, because you're constantly surprised about the low level of understanding, because it's almost like it's there all the time. You forget to see it. The sky's there, so you don't look up. Your computer's there, but you don't think about it. It's become so ingrained in our DNA. It's the simple things, Francis, and what you've experienced, we experience every week we have kids in, or older people, or we've worked with adults with learning difficulties with the same thing, So it doesn't matter. It's that kind of repetition. It's that, can we just sidestep it? Can we add that next level of security, which might just be a full stop or an exclamation mark, or change a 3 to an E or an E to a 3. I mean, these simple things. But yeah, you're right. It is constantly surprising.
Talking about what you just said there, now I like to throw things in as people speak. I'm just going to share a website where you can go and check how long it will take to crack a password. And obviously don't put one in that you use at the moment, but put one in that's similar. So if you can share that out, please, Mac. And so go and check your passwords. Go and see how easy it is to crack, because believe me, an 8-character password you can now crack in under an hour. And of course, and I think this is part of the reason people need to understand that having one key for your front door, your back door, for your office, and for your car, if it gets lost, you've got a problem. And we need to make this visual. Paul, thank you, Louise. Let's go into Paul Newton.
Yeah, I wanted to follow on. Actually, Louise said some great bits about if we just understand the basics, we can stop a lot of these scammers that are after the low-hanging, easy fruit. And it's a great point. And Paul Lopez, the example you gave, something I always do is think about the ripple effect. Think about what Louise touched on of, if I can hack this account, can I get into that person's parents' account? So let's think about that with that pub example. You got 3,000 followers on that pub example. For me, if I'm thinking as a scammer, that's 3,000 targets. Okay. Now, those 3,000 followers have already said they like this pub and they want to go there and they want to visit and they enjoy it. So why don't I send them a message saying, look, you can have £25 worth of a meal deal for £10.50. Okay. And then what I do is I say they have to go to this website to sign in. I've actually just nicked their credit card details, their home address details, their personal information from just a simple next step. The next thing I'm thinking about is, what are the suppliers like? Who are they connected to that are supplying that pub as well? And can I attack them? That's where I'm going next. From this one quite simple hack to take over a Facebook account of all things, I've got something like 4,000 new victims that I'm going after. Okay. And that scares the life out of me, because we play exactly the same game with every single one of them. If I go for those 4,000 now, I'll probably win on about, looking around the room, let's say I get 20% of them. Okay. Because they haven't set up the basics. That's not a bad day. For me, that's about 800 companies or people that I've now gained access to, and I'm nicking their personal information. I'm getting more information, and I'm going to play the game again and do it on all of their contacts. So please, if you sit there and think I'm a small business, it will never happen to me, you're exactly the person I'm after.
Yeah, I just start laughing when people say that.
Oh, it annoys me so much.
Well, we need to fix it, Paul. One person at a time. Mac, did you want to say something there?
Yeah, I'm sitting here giggling to myself because, you know, the amount of people that assume that it will happen to everybody else, but, you know, it won't happen to me because whatever the reason is.
Yeah, I'm too small for that. They wouldn't come after me.
Yeah. There's so many, you know, and while they prefer to go after the big dogs, well, the reality is us as small businesses are so open to these things and so much easier to crack. And I've seen this, unfortunately. You know, you talk about students and then teachers jumping in. You know, the reality is it's the same with the parents, because the parents have, you know, in a lot of cases, don't know how to protect the kids, because the kids are, you know, smarter and quicker on technology today than they've ever been. So it's so important. But I look at, you know, you talk about Facebook and people relying on Facebook as their sole business platform. And Francis, you and I have seen this same thing on LinkedIn. You know, with people that have got, you know, you sign up for LinkedIn, and, you know, you've got to ask yourself, when last did you change your password on LinkedIn? You know, which email address are you still using, and how many people are still using like AOL email addresses from years ago? And they use the same thing to log into all their social media. Now, you know, as both Pauls were saying over there, I mean, that's just like a golden opportunity for hackers, because that's every single follow on every single platform that you can, you know, and people build trust into you as an online entity. And then if you send them a DM on LinkedIn or on Facebook with a link that goes somewhere, you know, I get this on probably on a weekly basis, where I message somebody back going, "Hey, did you mean to send me this link?" And they don't even realize that they've been hacked. So, you know, on LinkedIn, we've had somebody, it took them 3.5 months just to be able to get access to their account again. How much business did they lose through that process, and how does that impact their reputation as well? So thought I'd just throw that into the mix.
Rob, fire away.
Yeah, I just picking up on this theme of people not believing it's gonna happen to them. We work with medium and some large businesses, and it's the same there as well. People simply won't prepare for what they believe is not going to happen to them. And although you can see that in the individuals you deal with, it happens in large companies too. People think that the IT department have got it all sorted and they don't need to worry about it. But also, I think there's a belief that on platforms like Facebook and LinkedIn, that the platform will look after you. They won't let it happen to you. But actually, of course, we're talking about your behavior on the platform, not the platform itself. So I think that's a key lesson to get across as well.
I think there's something really, because people say that to me and they'll say, "Oh, it won't happen to me," or "I'm clever enough," or "I'm an expert enough." And I think, I know some experts. I'm looking at them right now and I'm thinking, you're definitely not an expert just because you know what 2FA, you know what I mean? You're not an expert. That's why you go to experts and companies like yours, Rob, and, you know, Francis, and, you know, you go to experts for this reason, to kind of have that protection. And I say, so when you bought your house, do you lock your door? Yeah. Well, because you bought your house from an estate agent, do you just not leave it open then and let this estate agent want to lock your door? Well, no. Well, it's the same thing. You bought your computer, you have to then add layers of security. But because you bought your house from, I don't want to mention one, like an estate agent, are you just going to let the estate agent lock your door for you? No, well, it's the same thing. And I think the more that we can relate that to everyday behavior, that I think the more it drops. But I just start laughing. So if the estate agent isn't going to lock your door and you're going to lock your door, then maybe you need to look at your security on your computer or access people who can advise you in a more wise and safe way, which actually isn't me. So, I think that's a really good point, Rob.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think I'm going to throw another comment here. I'm just looking at the comments here, and I thank everybody that's actually passing over comments here, especially Stephen talking about 20-character passwords. Now, did you know that a 20-character random password takes on average about 1.3 sextillion years to crack? So I always say to people, I'm really sorry to tell you, we're all going to be dead by then. So the only way to do that, of course, is to use a very good password manager. But another site that I always like to share with people is Have I Been Pawned? And I'll put it on the chat again, because if you put in your email address in there right now, it'll tell you how many times it's been compromised, and of course, potentially who compromised it, because it's not always your fault. It's your fault if you use the same password more than once, of course. But also, if you go to the website, you'll see there's a section at the top, the second from the left, notify me. So in there, you can put your email address in, and I recommend you do this both for your personal and your business accounts and your kids and your uncle and auntie and mother, sister, brother, for them, so that they can be alerted when there's a problem. The other good news is, I don't know if you know this, recently you can now also add your mobile number in there. So you can actually track if somebody managed to somehow use your mobile number in a bad way. So listen, we haven't heard from Theo yet. Theo, you're sitting there thinking, because I know you've got some strong views around social media.
Well, there are so many threads that I can pull on in this discussion. But Rob, let's start with you. It is about the behavior, and it's about how individuals are using the platforms that they're engaging with. All right. So if we don't get the individual to understand that they are inherently at risk when they're using technology, they won't adopt good security measures, right? Further to that, if we're not, this is going to be controversial, if we're not teaching kids in school from the youngest age that they are at risk when they're using those same technologies, which they're currently being taught on, then they're not going to get it when they get older. So, there could be legislation around making the big social media companies enforce stricter measures. Yes, potentially, but it's not going to stop the people using those platforms incorrectly. So it's more about the adoption for me, about people using safe practices and safe manners of working and interacting with their technologies. On a daily basis, we spoke about multi-factor authentication being bypassed. Hackers are finding new and innovative ways every day. They're using AI, they're using robotic process automation to automate these attacks. When you've got that pub owner who's lost 3,000 records, that goes into a system which automatically goes and generates the scripts or the code to go and attack those people. And it takes them no time because it's been automated, right? So if they can get into our systems, they can do session hijacks, and they can bypass the standard controls that we have within our web browsers. We're going to be on the back foot the whole time. So people need to be taught from very early. Multi-factor authentication, yes, it is a step. It is a first step at protecting yourself. Not storing passwords in your web browser. Here's another one. I know Google is on a quite a big push at the moment. Store all of your passwords here. Man, I struggle with that. Get a password manager. Have the multiple layers of security that you spoke about, Louise. We have to, unfortunately, layer it because there are holes. That's me.
So, coming back to the school. So, in the morning, before Ben and I went to the school for our careers morning, I asked my son, I said, he's 13, so by the way. So I brainwashed him because he heard me do about 200 talks on cyber during lockdown, and I was sitting at home driving my wife insane. He said, Papa, I just want to ask those people one thing. He says, do you use the same password? I said, I will. And then he corrected himself, not use the same password, individual children. No, he says, ask them if the multiple children use the same password. And I couldn't believe it, because in his school, when he joined the school in Hertfordshire, first thing he said to me, Papa, you won't believe it, they got the password stuck on the wall. And the same password. So they didn't even have to guess, and this is the problem that I have. And when we were at this meeting with Paul on last Friday, Paul, and the head of cybercrime was there from Hertfordshire, and I asked this guy to his face, I said, to what age should we start teaching kids about this? Because if we can get the kids educated at a young age, by the time they start their own businesses, they will hopefully not be found all these attacks. And he agreed. My view is 5. When they can start swiping left and right, that's when they need to be educated. So Ben, can you share with us, just to break up this discussion for a second, because again, look at the time. I knew it was going to go quick. Can you share with us, some experiences on Facebook, and then also about the stats that you just learned? Because I've got loads.
Well, I think Theo did a good job of covering about the layers of protection and the behavioural side of it from a personal point of view. What I was going to pick up on was what Paul Newton started to sort of broach when he spoke, and that's the social engineering that goes on. So because that pub got hacked and it's got the 3,000 followers, they now trust the messages that are coming from that site, from that user. So therefore, it's not just about the hacker going after those 3,000, potential victims. It's the fact that they've actually got a massive advantage to be able to go after those victims by using the social engineering. And I refer you back to the lovely lady, the chef that had 10,000 followers on Instagram, and off the back of that massive Instagram following, she was being signed up to a book deal, and her Instagram got hacked. And then the only reason, so we tried to get the site taken down because we couldn't get access again to it, because all the pictures were of food and not of her. She couldn't use the automated process to regain the account. So we were fighting with support, trying to get it just shut down in the first place, because whoever had taken over the account had actually then been sending out to her followers these links for Bitcoin and various different cryptocurrency investments, wallets, and what have you. And of course, they were all scammed. And then but I signed up to this because I trust you. I signed up to this because I've been following you for 10 years, and therefore it's the vulnerability that those people that do follow the account have, because there's that relationship, there's that trust that's already in place. So that's what makes it particularly dangerous from a social engineering point of view, because there's already a relationship that they can exploit. So that's my thoughts from the social media side. So what I'm going to do is ask a couple of questions, and I invite people to put their ideas and thoughts of what the answers may be in the comments, and we will revisit it in about 10 minutes time to see if we have anybody that's got it right.
So Ben, sorry Ben, before you do, I see there's a comment from Simon Thomas. They're looking after 90 small businesses. The last sentence really strikes home, and that is, there's no space for complacency. You're 100% right, Thomas. And I hope more people will become more paranoid about their security going forward. Thanks.
Okay, so quiz time. I was on a webinar this morning with our one of our security providers that actually specialise in DNS, the internet signposts, and making sure that the traffic that goes from your computer to the internet is secure. And they came out with some stats that are very recently released. So, out of all computers connected to the internet, how many of them are infected with a botnet? Now, for those that don't know, a botnet is generally an initial infection that's on the machine, and it can sit there for months, if not years, and then they sell that access to other malicious actors who will then use it for denial of service attacks, for installing ransomware, for installing information stealers. Which brings me on to the second question I've got. How many endpoints were recently discovered with info stealer infections? So the first one, out of all computers, what percentage are infected with it as a botnet? And in millions, how many endpoints were recently discovered with info stealer infections? So feel free to pop your thoughts in the comments, and we'll come back with the answer in a few minutes.
Ben, can you just tell us what an endpoint is?
Your computer or your device.
See, we've had many debates about. Thank you, Louise. We're working very closely with Kenneth, who's on the session here today. He's helping us with our content, and we are debating at what age should we write our articles for. And I so wish he was able to talk right now, because he says Google says between, what's it, year 6 and 8? Is that it? And we struggle with that because we are fairly technical. So we just written an article about how much it will cost you to protect. And it uses some really normal, I'm trying to be polite here, really dumbed down that language, but apparently that's the way we should write for people to actually understand and comprehend this, grade 6 to 8. So I'll share the link to that in a minute. But Rob, did you want to come in on that any more on that subject before we move on?
No, just to back up what you said. In our experience, is that this, going back to this likelihood of things happening and people believing it's happening. I think this is the one area now where, with enough momentum behind the message that you guys are all pushing out and getting into schools and so on, it is more of an open door. But I watch my 13-year-old son on all forms of technology provided by the school, and obviously us by parents, and the way that he's using it and so on. And I'm fairly up on all of this, but it still terrifies me. So he is by nature incredibly naive, however much messaging we get them. So I don't have the answer to that, but it's a big problem, and it is very worrying. But generally speaking, I think the message is getting out there.
I like when people talk, because it reminds me of tips and tricks that I share with people. So thank you, Rob, because you just remind me another one. Now, if you let's go pre-COVID, okay? COVID is just broken out, or even in the middle of COVID, and you go in the same room or on a train, guess what? COVID spreads to everybody else in that same room or in the same train, whatever you call it. Would you agree? I'm sure you would agree, yes. Now, if you're sitting on the same wireless network as your child, your partner, or your son, or whoever, and you have an infection on your machine, Mac or PC, that can spread easily to all the other machines, what do you think will happen? Yes, it will spread like fire. So one of the best ways to self-isolate you from your kids, note the pun, is to create a separate Wi-Fi network. I would even go as far as to say, create yourself a one called Kids, so that they can log on to their own Wi-Fi, disconnect them from the existing Wi-Fi, so that, and maybe what you do is you create another one called Little Work Wi-Fi. And this applies at home and, of course, at the office. Why? Because an infection cannot jump from one Wi-Fi network to another, unless, of course, it's really badly configured. But most of the time, it can't. And I challenge you to do this. When you go to visit your next gym, or when you go to a golf club and you log on to their Wi-Fi, I want you to download an app called IP Scanner. And I did this only last week when I did a talk in front of 25 IFAs. And they were shocked when I showed them. So it's IP Scanner. It's a free app. Okay, so when you then log on to the Wi-Fi and you click scan, and you can see everybody that's currently logged on to that same Wi-Fi network. Now, how's that a good idea? So what I always advise people, if you're going to set up a Wi-Fi network for even guests to log on to, make sure that only that they cannot see any other device on the network. Because why? It can spread like COVID. So, who's next?
I just want to give you an
Louise?
update on that. And so, you told me that ages ago. So I went home and said, I won't name him my husband. I will. His name's Stuart. And he was logging on to a public Wi-Fi. And I was like, Francis told me that you shouldn't be doing that because of blah, blah, blah. And it took me ages. And then he got hacked. And I was like, you've got hacked because you didn't speak of the devil. That's him on the phone. But you got hacked because you didn't listen to advice. And you didn't listen to advice from somebody who knows better than you. And I think there's something about people not understanding that cybersecurity is different from than IT departments, and that cybersecurity is particular. So they understand it. And I think even getting that message across, anyway, he doesn't do it anymore, but I was smug. Francis, thank you for giving me a smug moment when I went, when I did that, I went, told you so.
One person at a time, Louise.
One person at a time, just so. And I still have my money in the bank, which is great. So, but I think it's really important that we understand that public Wi-Fi's, they need to understand it says public in it. And even that should give people a clue. So even just sharing that today will help save someone getting hacked because they'll think twice about logging on to a public Wi-Fi on a train
Again, you've reminded me at the end, I will share a way to protect yourself if you have to log onto a public Wi-Fi. But my favorite bit, at the bottom when you log onto the public Wi-Fi and it says, it's not secure. Do you know why? And still people log on to a not secure Wi-Fi and then they wonder why they get done, especially a man in middle attack, which we can have fun at the next month's session. I'll show you all about the pineapple and how pineapple works. Theo.
Oh, and so I've put two commands in the private chat, and before they get loaded, just a word of caution: if you don't know how to run command line commands, then don't do it. Otherwise, ask someone to do it for you. If you're running a Windows PC, you can go into your command prompt. You can type the first command is going to show you all of the wireless networks that you've ever been connected to. And the second one will allow you to choose one of those wireless networks and show you the password for it. Okay. So you might be asking, why am I saying this? Well, if someone gets onto your kid's laptop, and I've recently helped a high net worth individual with their security. If they get onto that kid's laptop, which they did it through a platform which the kid was using to do his gaming, so through Discord. That attacker can run those command lines and see exactly what passwords, which wireless networks, and which passwords those kids connect to. Now, Paul Newton might understand this better than anyone. Now we start the social engineering discussion, where an attacker will go to that child's school and start, as an example, logging into or offering Wi-Fi with a tool like the Wi-Fi Pineapple to all of the kids in that area, and start stealing that information, or the teachers, or whatever it is. So if you want to use them with caution. It can't break your machine. But if you've got a Windows PC, I would like to see your response. How many networks have you ever connected to, and how many passwords have you remembered? So give it a try.
So on that note, Theo, before I pass on to Ben, I know you can do the same on Androids, but what I'd like everybody to do, if you've got an iPhone, is to pick up your iPhone now. And, if you pull down at the top, you get the search box. If you type in the word passwords in full, up comes the word password with a little gear next to it. And if you click on that, I was with a guy yesterday, property owner, he owns a few properties, and you get a bit of a scare, and he uses an iPhone. So I showed this to him. And second from the top, you'll see there's a section called security recommendations. Now that normally means it tells you how many times or how many sites of yours right now have been compromised. And this feature has been there for years and years and years and years. And I don't know, again, why this is not enforced. It should pop up like the new alerting system coming out from the government. And people don't have a clue that all these passwords sitting on their iPhone has been compromised. or password being reused. So please look at this, go and fix all these ones that you find, and then tell everybody else. Before I move on, I'm delighted to see Jill Tiny is on our session today. She runs an amazing organization called the Collaboration Global. And if you've never seen it, please go and look her up. And also Sarah Marsh-Collins is here. These two ladies supported us massively in the days of Clubhouse. And of course, we will get them on the speakers as well, because they fly in the flag all the time in our next events. So thank you for your support as always. So Ben, time to reveal the answers. It's the button just underneath the hand.
Yeah, it's not. Francis, it's not unmuting. Fill in for me.
I can hear you fine. Ah, okay. Don't worry, listen, don't worry. Otherwise, you can just post the answers and we can share them. No, I think we can't. Can anybody hear him? Yes, no, no. You know, for a technology guy, you would have thought you got the sus, but anyway.
I think I'm back in.
No, you're back now. That's good.
We're a bit glitchy. Well, we did have some interesting guesses going on in the comments. So to start off, what percentage of all computers connected to the internet are infected with a botnet? They think it's now 25%. So 1 in 4 computers around the globe is infected with a botnet. And that for me is just absolutely shockingly scary, because it's gone up from about 10% when I last saw the stats last year. And that's where these machines have been infected, and it's just sitting there, lurking in the background, waiting to be sold on a cyber forum to provide access to the next cyber criminal. And it goes to show how people think that they're secure because they've got traditional antivirus, and they think that they're fine, when actually it's sat there in the background just waiting to kick into action and to steal their data, or worse, encrypt their data and demand a ransom. The other one was how many endpoints or computers or devices were recently discovered with InfoStealer infections. It's now surpassed 11 million. And what they do is they look at the internet traffic that's going on because they find the command centers that's receiving these data streams of all this stolen information, and it's in excess now of 11 million. So the numbers are just phenomenal, Francis, and they're only going up because the attacks are becoming that much more sophisticated, that the traditional protection methods, your traditional antiviruses, are really struggling to keep up with today's modern malware.
Now, on top of what you just said, Paul Lopez, you get the latest stats hot off the press. Would you mind share the latest with us? Because I think people need to know this stuff.
Which ones? There's so many. I mean, I suppose the current one, which is around the number of the percentage of businesses which are subject to a cyber attack every year. I mean, that's remained fairly standard, stable over the last few years, but it's between sort of 39-40%. So 39-40% of businesses are reporting a cyber attack. When I say reporting, that's not the police or the ICO. That's normally done through surveys and what have you. The amount of companies that probably report to the police is less than 1% of that, but there you go. So big numbers of companies are being attacked, and the average cost, I'm not sure how they work this out, but the average cost for businesses is about £3,000 for every attack that happens. And again, I think that's hugely underestimated when you start looking at reputational, ongoing, long-term losses of customers and stuff. But it's a £3,000 loss to the company. So they're the kind of key ones which we were made aware of yesterday by the NCSC. Is there anything else that you?
Yeah. My favorite, which is not a good one, is what percentage does the government spend right now on fighting cybercrime?
Oh, the police budget. Oh, yes. This is quite dark, but I feel a bit embarrassed to come out. But this comes back to, a lot of people have said this. We're all focused on preventing it or helping prevent it, because that's where you get the most bang for your buck. Trying to find out what's happened after the attacks happened is much more difficult, much more expensive, and not as successful. So 80%, that's 80% of recorded crime in England and Wales is cyber related. So cyber frauds, pure cyber attacks like DDoS, ransomware, what have you. So 80%, and we know massively underreported. So it would be much higher than that if everybody reported it. And the budget which the police put into dealing with cybercrime is 1%. So 1% of the police budget to deal with it, and that's what we simply can't afford to arrest a way out of it. So you're coming back to the Facebook thing. Once your account's gone, it's gone. The reality is, if you are a victim of a cybercrime, then don't look to the police to help you to get out of it, because you're not going to get your money back, and you're probably not going to, we probably won't find the people responsible either. We know that a lot of attacks occur from places like Russia and North Korea, Iran, what have you. So we don't have any kind of police relationships with those countries. So yeah, so the bottom line is you need to do something now to reduce the likelihood of the attack in the first place. And the second bit is you need to have a plan in place for if you are attacked to try and recover your data and get back.
Thank you, Paul. I'm conscious that we've got 4 minutes left, and we promised everybody that we're going to give them more tips and tricks on how to secure, especially their Facebook accounts and their social media accounts. Now, let me tell you why that woman, or my belief, please, you can challenge it if you like, with pleasure. My belief is the reason why that lady's Facebook account was still compromised, because she was using still using 2FA, MFA turned on, is for two simple reasons. Number one, and I asked her, so that's why I know this information. I said to her, let's call her Mary. Mary, number one, did you by any chance tick the box that says trust this device? She said yes. I said, Mary, did you by any chance open the Facebook account that was compromised on another machine? She goes, yeah. Was that machine protected? No. Okay. So the advice here is there's actually a third bit. I mean, on the machine that was protected was a Mac, or that wasn't protected was a Mac. Okay. So I shouldn't laugh. She was one of those people that thinks that Macs are secure, that Macs do not get infected. And I always have a good laugh, because we dealt with another new case only in Spain the other day that Ben helped with 4 ladies, the recruitment company. There was a browser hijacker sitting inside Chrome, and every single thing that was typed was captured until we cleaned it. So, of course, the last part of advice was that you need to put a security solution that can detect behavior, not just something that you install and hope for the best, which most people sadly have. Because so many attacks, you just heard from Ben about botnets. You heard about, if you haven't, about keyloggers, where a keylogger logs every key that you type. And a lot of antivirus solutions somehow just they do not detect this type of attack. So in other words, you get compromised. So you need a solution that actually detects behavior. So 2 o'clock on a Saturday morning, when somebody's sending data from your PC or Mac, normal antivirus solutions would think that you're working late. If you have a solution that uses AI to detect behavior, it'll think, whoa, this is not normal. Let me kill the attack. So, and that's how you fix this problem. The problem that we still have, however, is yet we cannot recover a Facebook account in I would say 99% of cases. Sadly, we haven't heard one yet. So we're hoping and praying that eventually this will happen. So I just want to go around 1 minute. Another great tip. Who's going to leave us with the last top tip of the day? Paul.
Well, I'll go with a quick and easy one. Almost every talk I do, I ask how many people have got cyber insurance covering their backsides. It's normally about 1/5 of the audience. If you haven't got it, get it sorted. The prices aren't ridiculous, and it could stop your company going bankrupt because somebody's just taken your cash flow out of your account.
Great advice, but I must tell you that only 8 to 9% of companies today have cyber insurance, and the premiums are doubling. So top tip. Thank you, Paul. Theo, let's end with you.
It's not a nice one, but if you're not paranoid about security, you better start getting paranoid.
We're supposed to end on the positive note.
I can't. I see too many people on a daily basis getting hacked, getting scammed, businesses closing down.
I think
paranoid.
I think it's just being positively paranoid.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well,
Thanks so
exactly.
much.
I think if you are paranoid, at least you've got the antennas are going, and you'll be less likely to get done. So thank you very, very much for everybody to be part of our first session. I hope this is going to go out to loads of different people. I hope a lot of people are going to learn. And remember, I ask for one thing and one thing only, and that's you share the information with 10 other people that you speak to. And the final point, remember to go to the Eastern Cyber Resilience Center and join as a member. And if you need any other cybersecurity advice, there's loads of people here, Theo, myself, Rob, Paul, Mac, that can help you. So I wish you a fantastic, safe, and a relaxing Easter weekend.
Francis, is the session being recorded, and where will it be made available?
That's a Mac answer.
You've got me multitasking now. Yes, it is recorded. It is available on the Security Everywhere LinkedIn company page. As it ends now, you'll be able to replay it as many times as you want. So it is live on there. And we'll be able to provide you with a couple other links as well. It's also gone onto my YouTube channel. So there'll be multiple sources. But just search Security Everywhere LinkedIn company page, and you'll find it right there.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. Lovely to see you all, especially those that we've not spoken to for a while. Stay cyber safe.
Excellent stuff. Wrapping up. Here we go.